Season 5 takes to the infamous Yard of Bricks in the last stretch before playoff territory. We're live from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Speedway, Indiana. We welcome you to the 16th race in the 2023 4-Wide Racing Cup Series and our coverage right here on MaxSpeedTV. So happy to have you join us once again on a Wednesday night. We're up in the broadcast booth here from where we call the Pagoda Land, or where I used to call it at least, the Brickyard, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. My name is Kenneth Bueno, and there's a lot to talk about in this race here from Indy. We do have a lot of storylines, most notably in terms of where the point standings fall, where the playoffs lie. We did have an absolutely outstanding race just 1 week ago at Illinois at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway. We get to open things up, have a bigger track here from Indianapolis. Before we get to a lot of the storylines and what we're really going to be focusing on over tonight and of course over the next handful of races, let's get a bit of a look overhead as to what we're expected to see here at this track. This is one of the oldest, if not the oldest track on this 4-Wide Racing Cup Series schedule. It opened back in 1909 and obviously a staple of racing, open wheel, stock cars, anything, you name it. This track has hosted it. 2.5 miles, 4.023 kilometers with 9.2 degrees of banking in every single corner. But the biggest thing to know, apart from the low banking and the fact that you do have to arc these corners well, is that you've got those long two straightaways on either end of the speedway. So you really have to make sure that you maximize aerodynamics, and draft is going to be a very big part of this event. Probably could be the difference between getting the victory lane and having to sit on the sidelines and wait for next week. Speaking of sitting on the sidelines, we do have drivers that are at risk of being put at the sidelines for the championship. We look at our current point standings. This is exactly how things lie in terms of our playoff picture. Lawson Peel all the way down to 7th place Austin Reedy. All of them already locked in with checkered flags on the year, at least one of them, so they are automatically with a bid into the playoffs for this season. But then look at all the drivers that are sitting below Austin Reedy that are now in by points. Curtis Kelly, Jaden Porter, Craig Lautenslager, Lance Hill, that goes all the way back to the last driver in, Kevin D'Elia in the 53. Remember, we saw some of the consistent finishes he had put together, most notably that absolute showstopper at Auto Club Speedway not too long ago, but he takes 16 points above that 15th place cut line. Last week we talked about the drama between Christopher Bishop and Tyler Murray. Thanks to both of them being in that race, they rocket to 13th and 14th on the standings, and now it's between Eric Schaefer and Kevin D'Elia. Right now, of course, we still have a couple of more races left to decide who's going to be the drivers that make it to the Season 5 championship eligibility stage, but it is certainly interesting to watch which drivers are in and which drivers are out as we continue to look for what might be a brand new winner here from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There was a lot to talk about. Last time we were here, it was Eric Schaefer to win this race on a 2-lap to go restart to the finish. Him versus Kevin D'Elia and Lance Hill running for the win. And fortunately, we get the fact to go circle back on that storyline because both of them fighting for that last place in the playoff standings. Both of them were in contention for the win. Last time we were here, Schaefer picked up his second in Season 4, his second win overall in the campaign. He still has yet to capture one. Neither has Kevin D'Elia, and neither has Lance Hill. So those drivers, those trios, now that trio specifically, are not going to be able to lock themselves in, at least for right now, but they do have the opportunity at doing just that. Let's take a look at the schedule before we get down trackside to bring you your starting grid. This is exactly where we've been, where we are headed for Season 5, and of course where we are tonight at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We go to the Iowa Speedway just 1 week after this evening's festivities, and then we go to 3 tracks that are all very different in their own way to decide our playoff field. Dover, Darlington, and Daytona, our last regular season event in the middle of May, and then of course we kick off in late May with the playoffs at Bristol Motor Speedway. We trickle ourselves down to Homestead, Miami for the end of Season 5. We'll have our Championship 5 decided at that very moment. Well, right now, drivers are sat on the grid behind the iRacing official pace car, which means it is our time to take you through your grid, see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be lining up here tonight from the Brickyard in Season 5 of the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series. Colin Forrester in the 99 rolls off first with the fastest time of 52.273. He's joined alongside by last week's winner, Joe Sanchez, in the 55. Going to be looking to be the first driver to go 2 in a row here in this season. Row number 2, you'll find one of the drivers who was in contention for the win here last season. Lance Hill rolls off from 3rd. Curtis Kelly with a fantastic qualifying effort that is good enough to put him on the outside of the 2nd row. 3rd row will consist of Craig Lauenslager in the 13, the 00 of Jesse Prees in P6. Jaden Porter in the 28, one of those drivers currently in via points for the playoffs. He is 7th as we drop the green flag tonight. Brandon Banks on his outside in P8. Adam Alishire for Trackhouse Racing wasn't here last week at Gateway, but returns to the action here from Indy. He rolls off 9th. Eric Schaefer, the winner here last time we were at this venue. He is the final driver inside your top 10 from qualifying. Tyler Murray, the league owner, is the 11th on the racetrack. 16 car, the 48 of AJ Green on the outside in P12. Tony Kivett and Brian Dixon, those two doubled up in row number 7 back to 14th. Then you'll find 15th place Kevin D'Elia, that last driver holding that spot. Christopher Bishop in the 42 on his outside. Michael Newbraw in the 6 is 17th when we drop the green. Brandon Gillis alongside in P18. Then the final two in your top 20, Timothy Cook in the 98. Lawson Peel did not set a time in qualifying. He was the fastest in practice, but he'll have to work from 20th on the grid. CJ Munier is 21st. Tyler Werner, 22nd. Our final driver in this field, 23rd place, going to the 7 of Chuck Keller. Weather from Indianapolis. Track temp at 101 degrees. Air temp at 70. Winds to the southeast at around 2 miles an hour. And most of the time we would try to discuss the wind and how it affects the exit of turn 2. But as we have 2 miles an hour, that's really not going to be a factor. There are clear skies above Speedway, Indiana in the virtual world. So we are ready to have a beautiful afternoon of racing. We go 80 laps, 200 miles, and just over 321 kilometers. And it will be Lawson Peel all the way back in 20th. Remember, he won a couple of weeks ago. The driver who won a week ago on the outside of row number 1. So kind of an interesting stat line to see both of them on the opposite end of the spectrum. But of course, they're all going to be chasing that 99 of Colin Forrester when we take the green flag. So pace car will make that exit onto pit lane. The 99 of Forrester, the 55 of Joe Sanchez will be the first two to bring us to action here from the Brickyard. Pace car is down and we will be underway. Green flag is out for race 16 in season 5. A tussle for P1 settled, now not. Here comes Joe Sanchez. Look to the inside in turn 1 for the race lead. As they completed lap number 1, you saw the multiple moves being made by the trio here, the 55, the 99, and then Lance Hill in the 1, who had a peek at P1. The exit of turn 2, but backed out as they both washed up the corner. But new race leader after the first lap, Joe Sanchez leads them on the back straightaway. And part of what makes racing at this Indianapolis Motor Speedway so special is the fact that really anyone has a shot. You look at those long straightaways on either end of the speedway, and you've got prime opportunities to get the toe off of somebody else and make a potential pass. Forrester looked at it for a second at the exit of 4, but deciding to stick with the 55, does not want to battle him as they go 3 wide behind them. That's Jaden Porter trapped in the middle. Adam Alishire on the outside. AJ Green getting a bump from Brandon Banks. This is a current battle right now for P6. And you're right on board with the number 28, the sophomore driver, as he watches the 48 of AJ Green, the 91 of Alishire. Of course, Alishire not here last week at Gateway, did not make that race. AJ Green had an up and down stunner of an evening after being penalized for actions at Auto Club Speedway not too long ago. He has since rebounded, and AJ Green now settles into P6. Alishire gives way, and this second group already fading from everybody 1st through 5th. Craig Lautenslager, the next car on line, is about a second up the road, and they have really broken away from the field. And the 99 of Forrester not trying to go underneath the 55 of Sanchez. He wants to stay with him, says, hey, I'll be with you for now. I'm not going to lose time trying to go side by side with you. I will need the drafting help. But right now, he's got his somewhat de facto teammate, Alliance member, Lance Hill, part of Trackhouse Racing. But of course, both of them being teammates at Stonks Motorsports last season. So both of them, of course, still good friends with each other. Both of them know how to work quite fluently. But at this point, top 5 have broken away. Now they're side by side for P6. Remember, Alishire gave way to the 48. He's got the look to the bottom. Green will give the space. And he will give up that spot. Looks like Jaden Porter has a train behind him. Tyler Murray, the 54 of Brandon Banks behind them. And then you've got somewhat of a battle between Kevin D'Elia and Eric Schaefer, both of them almost going side by side for what is P11 on the racetrack. And again, a lot of circle back knowledge between these two, a lot of interesting storylines between the 53 and the 3, as it looks like Eric Schaefer backs it up for turn 1. D'Elia has to make way to the inside, and that should be a switchover spot made for D'Elia. He ends up settling into 11th, but it is funny to see just how far these drivers come and just how much things come around at the end of a season going into the next one. D'Elia and Schaefer, they were side by side at the exit of turn 4 at the exit of the corner for the white flag. And now both of them are sitting in the mid-pack as Brian Dixon tries to look under Schaefer, who looks to be a little more conservative in this opening run over the first 5 laps. He's going to easily give up 12th, going to fall back to 13th. But still, even then, both of these drivers now settling in a place where they have to fight for that last spot, 15th in the playoff standings. Last week, of course, we talked about 2 different drivers, Tyler Murray and Christopher Bishop, both who were there at Gateway last week. They gained so many points on D'Elia and Schaefer to the point where now these 2 are the drivers we have to watch for. Could that say the same when we get out of here and head for Iowa and Dover, Darlington, Daytona in the next couple of weeks? That might just be the biggest point. And of course, it's only going to be more unique when you look at the story of these 2 drivers and just how far they've come since that last time we were here and Schaefer grabbed his 2nd win on the calendar. Back up front, Joe Sanchez, Colin Forrester still at it for the race lead. Forrester has, though, backed off, not necessarily right on the rear bumper hook to Sanchez, but Lance Hill, Curtis Kelly, Craig Lautenslager, those that are wrapping up the rest of the top 5, they have not tried to make a move. Looks like everybody wants to be content riding around in single file as we cross the line, complete lap number 6. So all single file to the back straightaway in lap 7. Of course, Forrester now getting the draft off of Joe Sanchez heading into turn 3, but once more, just like the past couple of laps, Forrester is not going to pull the trigger. He's going to stay there, although he does get a little bit loose at the exit of turn 3. And for the short shoe, grabbing for turn 4 down near that white Wumble strip at the bottom of the speedway. Now, of course, one thing that we have been talking about over this season, and even last season when we made the debut with the NASCAR Next Gen car, is that you can get such a run off the back bumper of somebody, and you can easily make a lot of ground up when you're behind somebody in the draft. And this might just be a quintessential way to look at it. You look at the battle further up here. CJ Munier, Timothy Cook, Christopher Bishop, all these drivers, and even the drivers ahead of them, all are in draft when they get to this straightaway. So on the bumper of the 89, you'll see just how much he's able to close in as he gets a great run out of turn 2 and just gets all the draft. Now peeking to the inside, so won't necessarily get that aero weight, but you'll see over this race just how much draft is playing a factor with these cars and with the underbodies and the diffusers that these cars do have. You have the opportunity to gain so much time on somebody in front of you and be able to make a pass, at least in one of the corners. Caution flag will wave, but it's Timothy Cook in trouble. We were just eyeing this WWEX Racing Chevrolet a couple of moments ago. Him and CJ Munier appear to be in some sort of scuffle in turn 3. And we'll see what happened. We were on board with Munier just a couple of moments before this happened. Cook just gets sideways in the short chute, turn 3. And Munier just got a piece of the damage there. Doesn't look like race-ending damage for either of them, but problems nonetheless. They're going to end up being far back in track position. They're probably going to have to end up on pit road at some point, and it might just be now as we get our first caution, lap 9 of 80. Here's another look at it. Munier peek to the inside. This is not necessarily anyone's fault, but just Cook just slides a little too high. The back end steps out. He tries to save it, overcorrects, taps the outside wall. Looks like Tyler Warner with a bit of contact to follow. And with that, we get our first bit of action on track. And the caution flies with Joe Sanchez still in control of this race. We have had no changes inside the top 5 since that opening lap. It looks like Joe Sanchez might be peeking for pit road. Will back out. We might have some drivers come in, and actually we do have a bulk of them going for service, and it all starts with Curtis Kelly in the 71, bringing Lautenslager, D'Elia, Murray, and a bunch of others in. Of course, we are expecting Timothy Cook and CJ Munier to make stops on the pit lane. There is the 89 and the 98, so both of them coming in, along with the 33, who picked up a bit of that nose damage from the incident that just happened out on track. But it is a solid group of drivers. Maybe not taking tires and fuel, probably just fuel only. Looks like Lautenslager gonna lift the jacks. Kelly, though, looks to be stable as could be, so he's not taking Goodyear Eagles. Now he will, so the jacks are up on the right side of his Chevrolet Camaro, so a pretty early call, only 9 laps into this race. And of course, you do have multiple tire sets available, but it is limited at all. So you are looking at a point in this race where you might just end up losing that last set of tires, and then you cannot go for a tire change anytime you go down pit road for the rest of the race. Remember, the last couple of times we've been here in Indianapolis, we have seen strategy unfold in very interesting ways. Remember when Brian Smith won this race a couple of seasons ago with the Gen 6 cars, rather, not the next gens. He ended up in a strategy race where he dominated the field, and of course we did have some interesting calls. Drivers running it out to the tank ran dry. We had others going for alternative tire strategies. Last season wasn't necessarily the case because we had a 2-lap to go restart, so it was just all battle on the racetrack. But for Indianapolis in 4 Wide Racing Cup Series history, we have seen strategy unfold in many different ways, and we have seen this race go in different directions, and especially when cautions come out, it could change the entire picture, and it could necessarily just shake things up overall. But for right now, your leaders are going to stay out, and it is going to be, it looks like, an entire total of 13 cars that do not come in. 14th place, Craig Lautenslager came out first. It looks like Curtis Kelly dropped a couple of spots on his stop, ended up with a 21.4 second stop, puts him back to 18th on the running order. So we'll have those drivers on fresh tires when we get this restart lap number 12. For everyone else, though, they will have old rubber. They're going to have to deal with it this time by. So much like it was before we had this first caution flag, it is Joe Sanchez in control of the race. Colin Forrester on the outside in second. Adam Alishire and Lance Hill third and fourth. AJ Green now the last one inside your top 5. So it appears everybody first through 5th. Somewhat changed on the back end, but at the staple at the front. Not necessarily any switchovers whatsoever apart from Forster now just being on the outside. He was the pole sitter in this evening's race. Sanchez, of course, the winner last week at Gateway, and ended up with a phenomenal way to hold off his teammate Lawson Peel on fresher tires near the end. And Peel did his dearest to try and catch his teammate, but Sanchez ended up picking up his second win of the calendar year, so got his second after grabbing the first at Richmond in race number 7. Sanchez, Forster, both of them are easily locked into the playoffs with their multiple wins. Forster with 3 of his own on this season. And you look at Lance Hill, Adam Alashire, the 2 for Trackhouse Racing. Remember, the third teammate, Timothy Cook, further back in this field. It looks like he will be 22nd when we get the green. Him and Chuck Keller trying to catch up to the field, but they have not had any success. They will have enough time, though, when the field comes out of the final corner. So pace car will be down. Field in the hands of Joe Sanchez, the Valvoline Chevrolet. Pace car will make its way down underneath that yellow cone. And all control lies with this 55 machine who will take us through the restart zone, back to the yard of bricks, and back to the green flag at lap number 12. Dead even between first and second as they head for the short chute in turns 1 and 2. And Forster trying all that he can and pinch this 55, and he almost gets into the outside wall, but that is good enough to get him the lead. Forster back in front for turn 3. Here's Lance Hill, and Sanchez trying to send the block. An aggressive move by Sanchez. It was a little too late, and Hill forced his nose down there. We're side by side for second. Make it side by side for 5th as well. Adam Alashire, Jaden Porter in turn 4. It's an absolute showdown. Now help down low. AJ Green giving support to the 1 as they try and arc it for turn 1, almost 3 wide. And Green's going to have to back out significantly. Had the worst arc possible in the corner and lifted off the gas pedal. But he will avoid potential catastrophe from Jaden Porter and Adam Alashire, who are still doing battle. Porter wins that one. All while Colin Forster leads this race by half a second. Look at the snake trailing on the back straightaway to make sure he doesn't grab any bit of the draft. And Sanchez is going to look to strike back, although he has not found an answer. And they're all single file, and they were side by side for a moment in terms of P5 is concerned, but it might just be one for P6. Settled out quickly. Alashire gets back in front of the Ally Chevrolet. Brandon Banks, a bit of help from Lawson Peel. Remember, Lawson Peel started tonight's race in 20th. Did not set a qualifying time. And now up into the top 10 for the first time this evening. And with Brandon Banks' mistake in turn 1, that might just be Peel's for the taking. Peel going to go to the inside and will make that pass complete. Alashire still defending on Jaden Porter as we cross the line. Or we're going to cross the line for lap number 15 here of 80. Hill has caught Colin Forster at the front of the field. Only problem is he does not have any help. So he will just have to try and make sure he can get the best run possible in turns 3 and 4. Be able to set this up back for turn 1. It's somewhat like open wheel racing where you just get so much draft on these straightaways. But as soon as you try to make a move to the inside or outside, one driver either has to back out or there may just be a catastrophic mistake as Hill follows Forster way down to the inside wall. And it just shows you the level of racing you need to have here at this track. 2.5 miles long and no room for error. On board with Lance Hill in turn 1. And Hill trying to force the 99 into a mistake, try to make him wash up the exit of turn 2. But in fact, Hill's the one that washes up, leaves the space for Forster. So the 99 going to hold on to the lead. Sanchez and Green, though, are kind of waiting in the ranks. They're not necessarily doing anything right now. Or maybe they just do not have enough momentum to catch up to your leaders. But Hill trying to be as aggressive as possible And you can imagine how important clean air will be to rotate through these corners. And we're going to see this often, especially if we get a long green flag run. The tire wear on the right front is so significant. You're going to have these issues arise quite early in the run. We're already 15 laps into this race. These drivers have not come down for service. And as Hill goes to the outside of Forster, he's going to have to watch his exit speed, because the last thing he wants to do is nose that right front into the outside wall. Forster gets loose underneath Hill, and the one of Lance Hill takes the lead at lap 16. And remember, Craig Lautenslager, Curtis Kelly and company, all of them who had come down to the pit lane to come for tires, well, they have not made that much progress. Curtis Kelly currently sits 12th. He is the highest running fresh tire car in this field, and it looks like he has not been able to carry that speed. Remember, this 71 was in the top 5 in our opening couple of laps before that first yellow came out at around lap 9. So you can imagine that obviously there's a difference, and there is an advantage inherently if you're Curtis Kelly and company, but for them, they have not been able to catch back up. Either that's just a maneuver to save some tires and maybe unleash them later on the run when all of these guys have to come in, or maybe it's just a different play entirely. We almost saw another side-by-side battle between your two leaders. Forrester had a good enough run to get to the outside of Lance Hill, but could not make anything of it. Joe Sanchez, remember, he's been sitting calmly in third after being in the lead for quite a while tonight. He has since not found the way to strike either of your top two. And much like our first one, we run single file at this juncture of the race, and not many drivers looking to go side by side. They do not want to lose a lot of time, and that's something that you'll probably see a lot here at this track more than others. You're going to see more side by side action on the straightaways as Forster peeks to the bottom and tries to fake Lance Hill out. They almost make contact in turn 1. But Hill's going to be able to keep himself stable. Forster again gets loose in the middle of the corner and will have to back out of any run he can build on the 99. So far, again, single file, but you're going to see this often. A lot of the passes probably done in the straightaways. In the middle of the corners, you do not have multiple lanes of use, so you really have to get yourself down to that white line as much as possible to get the best runs, get the best laps here at Indianapolis. So you really have to be careful about where you go side by side, and that may just be a reason why these drivers are not wanting to go door to door and do not want to be as open with battling for position. Caution flag is out for the second time, and it's Michael Newbraw in trouble. Takes it to the access road in turns 3 and 4. And Newbraw will carry that Chevrolet back to the field. It looks like no damage on his car, so it looks like he'll be able to continue much like we saw in that first wreck. Well, we'll see exactly what happened to Newbraw, and it might have just been a violent hit. And this was in between Curtis Kelly, Kevin D'Elia. Remember, we saw these both earlier in this race near the front of the field. And this was Kevin D'Elia trying to build a run. I think they might have just made contact right about here. Yes, they do. The 53 hooks to 6. He goes for a skip and a slam into the inside wall. But from an outwards view, it doesn't look like that car has too many scars on it. And the chrome number 6 Chevrolet now at the tail end of the field with this caution coming out. A single car incident on the back straightaway. So our second caution out with Lance Hill at the front of the field. We had Colin Forster try to catch him for quite a while, and it is sort of fun to watch these two go at it just because now they've got a difference in teams. Trackhouse Racing represented by Hill and Alishire, and now Timothy Cook, their newest driver. Forster still on Stonks Motorsports with AJ Green and a bunch of others. And it's sort of interesting to see how those two are now starting to find their way battling on the racetrack. And despite being on different teams, they're going to come down to the pit lane. Obviously, the choice on lap number 19, a general consensus by most of the field. However, one driver staying out, and that is Kevin D'Elia in the 53. We'll take an eye and see if Curtis Kelly and these drivers are coming in. It looks like they are. Remember, they used the tire set earlier at around lap 10 when they all came in after the first yellow. And question is, do they go for tires again? Him in the 13, Craig Lautenslager, were those two to come in for Goodyear Eagles. It looks like no tires for either of them. Fuel only. They're going to try and come out ahead of your leaders. They do, but it's not enough to beat the league owner, Tyler Murray. A 5.9 second fuel only call to get him out front. A gorgeous fuel only call by Tyler Murray to get him ahead of the entire competition. But they're going to have to beat two drivers when we get the green. Kevin D'Elia, Timothy Cook will lead us to the next restart. Pit stops on our second caution at lap 20. Don't go anywhere. We've got more of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series from the Brickyard.
Wanted the best, you got him for abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
Back live for the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway for race 16 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series in Season 5. Welcome back to our coverage on MaxSpeedTV. Kenneth Winnow with the broadcast group, and it is Kevin D'Elia out in front of the competition. Him and Timothy Cook both stayed out on the most recent yellow involving D'Elia himself and the 6 of Michael Newbraw. Everybody throwing on back fuel or tires on their respective pit stops. Tyler Murray, Craig Lautenslager, Curtis Kelly among those who take fuel only. Everybody from Lance Hill on back, all 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles to get themselves settled for what's going to be this next restart on lap number 22. We had 2 different leaders at the time of caution. Joe Sanchez after our first, Lance Hill after our second, and with this strategy call by both Kevin D'Elia and Timothy Cook, it's only a matter of time before we see what unfolds here, and especially those that took fuel only, how they're going to settle out with fresh tire competition behind them. If you took note of our last run, Kevin D'Elia was near the back of the field. Timothy Cook was also there. Tyler Murray was finding his way through the mid-pack, and then the 13 and the 71 who were on fresh tires made absolutely no progress. Can they stay up front, and can they defend against all those others that are hungry behind them for the lead? Pace car is down. D'Elia in control of the next restart. Lap number 22 of 80 in the first quarter of our race from Indianapolis. An early jump by D'Elia to get us back underway for turn 1. Timothy Cook, contact with Curtis Kelly in the short chute. They're able to stay straight. Remember, Cook with absolutely no fresh Goodyear Eagles. Everybody trying to storm by. The only one with success, the 99 of Forrester. Tyler Murray tries to snake trail on your race leader. As there goes Lautenslager and AJ Green pushing on the outside. As they try to settle each other out and make sure they can get away from this without a piece of damage. A bit of contact with the wall up ahead of the road. Cook trying to brace for impact as AJ Green finds his way to the bottom. He'll look for 5th for a moment. And now here comes Forrester. Tag on the inside for 3rd. Forrester is going to find his way to the bottom. He makes that pass complete without any trouble. And he gets loose to the exit of turn 1. That'll reel the 16 back in. And how about AJ Green? Going to be the tertiary car in this entire mix. Forrester struggling to keep the grip on his Goodyear Eagles underneath him. And Forrester going to get freight trained. Joe Sanchez potentially looking at 3 wide into turn 3. Loudon Slugger backs out. Sanchez way up the road. It is an absolute dogfight for third on back. They are almost 3 wide in turn 4. AJ Green survives the mess. Remember, your top 2, Curtis Kelly and Kevin D'Elia, have absolutely run away from the competition more than a couple of car lengths back. They're 3 wide for position. And that's the 13 of Loudon Slugger again in the middle of trouble. Lance Hill and Jaden Porter now going side by side into turn 1. Sanchez looking underneath Tyler Murray. This is going to be for P5 on the racetrack, and the entire field all bunched up together. We talked about how important this alternative call was going to be for the likes of Timothy Cook and Kevin D'Elia. It has played out in 2 completely different ways. Cook now buried in the back of the field. Kevin D'Elia in clean air with the race lead, and everybody else in the middle just trying to find their footing. As Tyler Murray washes up in turn 3, that'll open the door for Lawson Peel. Remember, this 12 car, your defending series champion, started this race in 20th. Didn't put a time down in qualifying, and has since been able to work his way up through the field. He was at most at 8th before the second caution came out. And so far, so good, as Colin Forrester in the background looks on the inside. And that's a completed pass for third. Forrester with an absolute mission to get back to the front. And it looks like from what we've noticed over the past 2 runs and these calls for pit road, tires don't necessarily seem to be that big of a factor. The drivers on fresh rubber, whether it be by more than 10 laps or not, do not end up in a situation where they can catch up to these guys with enough force. It looks like D'Elia and Kelly have been content riding up at the front. Obviously, it's also a byproduct of these drivers going side by side, end over end. However, you're also looking at the case where at most other tracks, most other 1.5 mile or even 2 mile venues, Auto Club in Michigan, you'll see those fresh tires make themselves obvious. Forrester and AJ Green will be able to set way faster times, and you would see those gaps immediately come down to a close in a matter of, let's say, half a lap. But for right now, it's taking them a couple of laps to get themselves wound up. And even then, they don't necessarily have that great of an advantage. So you're looking at Curtis Kelly, Kevin D'Elia, those 2 drivers on an alternate strategy. They're able to make things work right now. Both of them still a couple of car lengths ahead of that 99 in third. And further back to the field, absolute mayhem. Adam Adelshire in the number 10, the 91. The JetBlue Airways Chevrolet leading a group of maybe 5 or 6. And that is Brandon Banks on the inside of the 16. The league owner Tyler Murray. Looks like next driver in line. That is Brian Dixon following suit in the 03. And then falls Eric Schaefer in the number 3 car. We have not seen any of Schaefer tonight. He's been hanging around the mid-pack. Remember, he was the winner last time we were here. We have not seen that much dominance out of this 3 car. Of course, still a long way to go as he gets a huge run on Brian Dixon getting for turn 2. But this 3 car has not been able to find that much success at this juncture of the race, as Timothy Cook in the background goes a little wide out of turn 2. That's one driver going to the inside. A brand new look for Tony Kibbett. And the number 76 going to bring in the 00 of Jesse Prees and the 42 of Christopher Bishop along with him. Again, that draft mattering so much in this track with these cars, as finally there's a battle here for second out of turn 4. The 99 of Forrester looks to the inside, tries to distance himself from a potential side draft opportunity, and Curtis Kelly just giving the way, giving him the space, and he understands Forrester has fresher tires, going to give him the spot. And the Skybox NASCAR Fast Banana Chevrolet is going to settle in third and might have to brace for impact when it comes to getting into this spot comfortably, because AJ Green, Joe Sanchez are not too far behind. And now it's all down to 0.4 of a second between Forrester and the number 53 of Kevin D'Elia. Again, mostly single file through this field. That's pretty much been the case all night long over the first 28 here from Indianapolis. There are not many drivers looking to make side-by-side battles happen, at least often. And obviously over the restart, you're going to see everybody side by side in a big draft battle. But as soon as things start to settle out, you're going to get these single file trains and mostly 3 or 2 car groups, and maybe 4 in the case of Lawson Peel and all those drivers behind him. That goes back to around Lance Hill. And remember, Hill was in control of this race, had P1 for a while, and led us to our second caution, and now has not been able to find a way past the sophomore, Jaden Porter, in the 28 for Bacalhau Bueno Racing. Here's a look on board with the number 1 for Trackhouse Racing. We'll look for turn 3, trying to get some of the draft off Porter, who might be looking at a pass of his own, but will back out on the American Airlines Toyota Camry, but instead will duck the nose to the bottom. So side by side for 7th, Jaden Porter looking to the bottom of Craig Lautenslager. Both of these drivers in contention last week at Gateway, both of them with decent races. And obviously things changed on ahead in those final handful of laps as Jaden Porter tries to give the block to Lance Hill, but all of that for naught. Hill looks to the bottom, and now we've got side-by-side action. This is for 8th on the racetrack. Back up front, though, Kevin D'Elia looking to stay defensive against Colin Forrester, but he gets a little loose out of turn 2. And on the back straightaway, this long run to turn 3, Colin Forrester has the strike. D'Elia does not have the answer. Colin Forrester back to the race lead. Colin Forrester was not in attendance last time we were here back in Season 4, did not make this race. And this has been an absolute statement. Remember, he has picked up 3 wins on the calendar year, his most recent coming at Circuit of the Americas, and almost about made it 2 in a row at Auto Club Speedway, where he put on an absolute show. And this just might be another exclamation point on what has been a sensational season for the Sonx Motorsports driver after last season's struggles. It took him 13 races to get to the win at Chicagoland to lock into the playoffs. As Joe Sanchez takes a peek underneath Curtis Kelly, remember him and AJ Green were in that little group with each other, that dynamic duo on fresh rubber. And for right now, not necessarily an obvious pass for the moment. Sanchez still having to fight for it back to turn 1. And has been side drafting this 71 for about half a lap. In turns 3 and 4, he was there. Now in turn 1, can't do it. Slides up and almost makes contact, and he'll have to back out. Sanchez having trouble getting around Kelly. And again, we mentioned the struggles of being on fresh tires here at Indianapolis and how it is not necessarily being that big of an obvious factor. It is only getting tougher over this run as we cross for lap 33 next time by, where Sanchez and AJ Green, although they do have a 10-lap advantage for the most part on tires. Kelly did come down last time by, but only for fuel. They have not been able to get through convincingly. It's taken them a while. Now they're starting to break into the top 3. Colin Forrester has led that group down, but for the most part, Sanchez and Green just kind of biding their time, and they are not able to get any sort of run on this Fast Banana and white Chevrolet. They're going to have to try next time by, but they are reeling in Kevin D'Elia. The last time they set a lap, it was a 52.9 for both Kelly, Sanchez, and maybe even the tertiary car in all of this, AJ Green. Kevin D'Elia at the same pace, but he has severely dropped off, and Colin Forrester has now run away 1.3 seconds, and you can think that might also just be a big threat to that 55 and the 48, because while they are trying to play catch-up, that 99 is in clean air. He's pulling away. He's practically doing whatever he wants, unless a caution comes out and bunches the field back together. So there is some substantial concern if you're Sanchez and AJ Green, because you spent that strategy getting the same tires as Forrester. Now you're not making the most of it. Now you're starting to struggle in this run, and lap by lap, if you cannot get by those old tire cars, it is only going to be worse for you. And we saw how tough it was to pass last week at Gateway. It appears to be the same way here from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You don't have many opportunities to make those passes. It seems as though the front straightaways is really where you're going to make your money, where this magic is going to happen. 4-car battle at the exit of turn 4 on the back straightaway. Curtis Kelly had gotten out of shape. Sanchez trying to make a move to the outside. AJ Green now currently on the back end of a 3-car train. They make contact. And they make it 3 wide. Now move in Lawson, Peel, and Lance Hill. They're going to get multiple drivers close. And Peel almost about sent it to the inside wall. And that could have been disastrous for any one of them. As they all bunch in together, remember, they are still letting Forster pull away now. 2 seconds. Hill gets sideways in turn 1. A bit of smoke out of that one machine, but he saves it. He'll fall back to 7th. And it's now door-to-door between Curtis Kelly and AJ Green. Lawson Peel, who had been hanging back for a while with that 4-car group. They're now starting to make a statement. Contact on the back straightaway. Green and Kelly go sideways. Kelly's going to go for the grass. He comes back up the track in a lone slugger. Both of them into the outside wall. And he goes officially around. Caution lights wave. And it felt like it was going to come at some point, that crash, as the 4 drivers in that group, including Curtis Kelly, got all out of shape. And there's Kelly with some right front toe leak damage as he limps into pit road. And this is how it all happened, and we probably imagined that this crash would come a lot sooner. This was side by side with AJ Green and Lawson Peel, a 3-car train. And it looks like Kelly just tried to side draft but got a little too close. He makes this contact right about here. Gets into both the 12 and the 48, then goes hard into the wall. And at this point, he's got the toe link ripped off. He has no steering entering turn 3. He is going way too fast to rotate that race car. And unfortunately, Curtis Kelly gets caught up at the worst part of the track in the middle of the corner, and he ends up in the outside wall. A part of this on board with Long Slugger, sees a bit of the contact, slows down to get away from it. He thinks Curtis Kelly is safe, but again, that toe link damage prevents Kelly from making the corner at his speed. And there is nothing that the 13 can do but hop on the brakes and become a passenger. Loudon Slugger trapped on pit road. I believe he has officially been put 1 lap down, dead last in 23rd as the entire field comes down pit road. Colin Forster to lead him in. And D'Elia just hit the inside wall on the pit lane. What has happened to Kevin D'Elia? We saw him going for his pit box, and I believe he might have gotten hit. Now finally gets into his stall after multiple adjustments. The 12 of Lawson Peel at first. I believe that might just be a fuel call. No, it's not. It's a tire call. But everybody else is going to try and fight their way out. Forster wins the race off the pit lane. And he goes around on the bumps in turn 1. What is happening here at the Brickyard? Forster trying his best to keep the car straight through the grass. And the question is, will he lose his spot as a result? Tyler Murray has stayed out, so he'll assume the race lead. But in terms of second, will it be Forster's back to gain? Or will he have to settle for where he sits right now? I think we'll see exactly what race control does. But it appears he is being pushed to the rear of the field. He is letting drivers by. Colin Forster, one of the most dominant drivers up to this point, with a penalty at around halfway. And we'll watch this instance on pit road. It was no contact on behalf of the Kevin D'Elia machine. It looks like he just missed his stall, locked up the brakes, and slammed the wall. But for Colin Forster, you'll watch it here in the 99. He comes into his first pit stall. Of course, the pole sitter this evening. He goes for 4 fresh tires and fuel. This is business as usual, but there's an unusual bump at the exit of the pit lane. And you'll see it here. There's Lawson Peel in that black and white Chevrolet moving himself into frame. At this point, there goes Sanchez and Forrester. But right here, the car hops and the car spins. And Forrester is dealt a pit road exiting penalty. Here's a look on board with this 99, and here's what happened. That car just unsettles and gets loose, and there's nothing he can do to save it. As there's a look on board with Joe Sanchez, who will have control of this race, and with that penalty, Forrester has dropped to 16th on the racetrack. That much distance he has to cover. When we get this restart at lap 39 of 80, we should be at our official halfway mark here from Indianapolis. And a bizarre set of sequences take two of the hardest hitters out front in this last run out of contention for the lead. Remember Kevin D'Elia's mistake on pit road. That has dropped him to 14th, so about a spot better than the 99 of Forrester. And we are only raising the question marks further at this stage of the race. Can things get any more weird? As Joe Sanchez and Lawson Peel, those two who were fighting for the win 1 week ago at Gateway, now in row number 1, taking the green at the Yard of Bricks. As lap number 38 will be completed, pace car makes its way down. And it will be all in Sanchez's hands to bring this field back to action. AJ Green right behind him, but no need for that purple and yellow 48. Sanchez has a magnificent restart back to turn 1. And unlike the last restart, less chaos at the front of the field as everybody goes single file. Lance Hill might just build a run here out of turn 2 as AJ Green gets a little wide. Now here comes Hill. He'll get a block sent, but he finds the space to get to the inside. And look who's in the top 5 for the first time all evening long. Eric Schaefer, your defending winner in this race. He has spent a majority of this event in the back of the field trying to find his place, but now he has found it, and it's here in the top 5. Lance Hill finds a way to clear AJ Green at the exit of turn 4. Green almost flirts with the outside wall, and here comes Lawson Peel for the race lead. Remember, we have been talking about Peel's comeback from 20th on the grid this evening, but cannot build the run. Sanchez pushes him down low, and he cannot get enough momentum to keep the lead intact, and he might just have a problem keeping second in his hands as he gets loose out of the second corner. And down the back straightaway, here comes Hill with a big run for the race lead in P1. Help from Stonks Motorsports is AJ Green. Lance Hill back to the lead in turn 3. And what a magnificent run by the one machine as AJ Green gets loose in turn 4. He'll have to keep the door open for the huge line of cars. On the front straightaway, Lawson Peel with a crossover, heading for the Yard of Bricks. He's going to settle behind Eric Schaefer in the 3 car, now taking third away. And all the while, letting Brandon Banks in the 54 catch them little by little. He's got Jaden Porter in tow. They have a decent gap back to Tony Kimmett, who has now assumed P8 on the racetrack. So this might not be over quite yet, as Peel tries his dearest to stay on the inside of AJ Green. And he'll fall back. Green looking to the bottom, tries to fake Schaefer out on a move. Now they're side by side for third. Look at just how aggressive this field of drivers has been on these restarts. And now, just like I said, they have brought in the 2 cars in this mix, the 28 and the 54. Brandon Banks giving support to his teammate back to turn 1. Still in that battle with AJ Green, who has not given up any of his track position on the outside nor the inside. He has been adamant at keeping his spot intact, but for right now, it seems to be in jeopardy. The 54 still looking to the bottom. Jaden Porter might just be helping the fellow 48 right in front of him. And so they might just make things happen in the draft on the back straightaway. But look at the gap they have back to Adam Alashire in the 91. Took over 8th place from Tony Kibbett in the 76. And now they have just been trotting around single file as we have already crossed the halfway mark in tonight's race. With Lance Hill up at the front for the second time this evening. 3 different winners in 3 races time through Talladega, Atlanta, and New Hampshire, and that has since not happened as Lawson Peel, Colin Forrester, Peel again, and Joe Sanchez have all picked up other wins in the past couple of races. Lance Hill, one of those drivers, still without a race victory in 2023. His last one came all the way back at Road America in race 8 of season 4. Did, of course, make the playoffs, tried to get all the way to the championship 5, but fell quite short. But Lance Hill now pulling away 0.5 of a second to Joe Sanchez and Eric Schaefer, who might just do battle for P2. Between AJ Green and Lawson Peel, that has since settled. Peel has pulled away. Green now trying to defend against Jaden Porter and Adam Alashire, Brandon Banks. All those drivers single file, those couple of spots behind is there, I believe, side by side for 14th. This is Kevin D'Elia, Jesse Prees on the front straightaway. Kevin D'Elia, remember the mistake he made on pit road after being up in the front for so long on old tires, and he cannot keep the tires underneath him there in turn 1. We've seen so many drivers get loose trying to put as much throttle as they can in the middle of the corner. And Kevin D'Elia rather, currently trapped in 15th. Remember, Colin Forrester was around this part of the race in that spot when we took the green flag on that restart. He has since progressed to 9th. One of the fastest cars out on the racetrack this evening, now trying to pick up the pace on Adam Alashire as he gets loose in turn 4. And you saw just how much you have to wheel that car. You heard the throttle modulation rather. Forrester has been aggressive as can be. And the last time they crossed the line, 52.3. That is almost 0.3 faster than the car in front of him, Adam Alashire. So safe to say that 99 on raw pace is a driver to watch for. But track position not in his favor. And much like Gateway, it's so hard to gain. Once you get off of those restarts, it is almost impossible to make track position because you see the distance that covers the entire field. It has exponentially grown since those restarts. You have everybody maybe 2 and 3 wide on the straightaways, maybe a lap or 2 after you get the green flag, but as soon as you get 3 or more laps into the run, it all single files out. Nobody can make a pass. Nobody can either keep a pass attempt together because they'll either get pushed so far down to the track that they might just get a little too sideways, or they're too far wide in the middle of the turns that they're going to slam the outside wall if they keep the throttle input. So it has been unbelievably tough to pass here at Indy tonight. And you're seeing that and this strategy come to life as a lap 46. And we should expect at least one more pit stop before this race is all said and done. These drivers now approaching 10 laps on their respective stint, at least for those who did come down pit road for 4 fresh tires and some fuel, which is a bulk of this entire field. As Colin Forrester takes Alashire down to the white line of the grass and tries to look for an outside pass in turn 3. And both of them catching this trio of Brandon Banks, Jaden Porter, and AJ Green as they tap the outside wall. Forrester included in that group. He's going to stay behind this 91 car. And all 5 of these guys probably cooped in by at least a second or so. Led by the 48 of AJ Green, who's now about a second and a half, more than a second and a half off of Lawson Peel in the 12 car, who's catching up to the 3 of Eric Schaefer. His teammate gets out of the way. Schaefer gets loose and brings it all the way to the apron, but he'll save it. It's the last thing you want to do out of these corners is light up the rear tires and get that car traveled so far sideways that you either get put in a spot where you can overcorrect into the wall, or you get so loose where you chase it down to the inside grass. And as soon as you get to that grass with those Goodyear Eagles, it might just be game over for you altogether. Fortunately, Schaefer keeps it cool, keeps that car straight. We stay under green as, again, these cars back from 5th on back, all within about a second. Forrester on the tail end of all of this. And Alshire still has not found the way past that 54, and instead he will get rummaged by the 99 of Forrester. Forrester looks to the inside. That's a completed pass for P8, now looking for 7. And again, it's all about the draft, making sure you get as much momentum as you can, and doing this, mind games, sending drivers wide in the middle of the corners and getting yourself that run on the inside that has been a part of what made Forrester so quick in this run. He's been able to fake drivers out, and as they wear out their tires in competition with other competitors, Forrester has just ticked them off one by one. Now make that 7th for this 99. He might push Jaden Porter wide in turn 1. Will not do it, so he'll try and methodically work his way past that Ally Chevrolet, who, by the way, has a different color scheme here this evening. Of course, we have seen different Ally Chevrolet paint schemes out of Jaden Porter, but as of late, of course, running that main Ally paint scheme that Alex Bowman has been running in the Cup Series for 2023. This new addition with the black base, a part of the night race schedule that Bowman will run with Ally as the sponsor. Forrester looking potentially 3 wide on the back end of this as Porter tries to make his case known against AJ Green for, I believe, the 2nd time in the last couple of laps. And instead might just get freight trained by the draft train. On the outside, Forrester might just give support to the 28. He says, why not? Stay battling in turn 1. I want to take advantage of both of you and get past and make my way back to the podium. And, of course, most importantly, to the lead. But has a little trouble getting grip out of turn 1 and about makes contact with his teammate in the 48. And we'll have to stay fighting with him for P6. Forrester gets his way through. So approach 30 laps to go here from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It has been rather a quick race here, 200 laps. We have spent a good amount of this race under green. We've had some yellow flag sequences to put us in the middle. That's why we've seen our pit road strategy unfold the way that it has. And while it hasn't necessarily been under green, it has been interesting to watch under yellow as Lawson Peel looks underneath Joe Sanchez and gets around, says, excuse me, on my way through. And Lawson Peel, the highest we've seen him all night long, now in 2nd. Remember, he started back in 20th, so overall gain of 18, our biggest mover up till this point. Gets by his DBR teammates, and Eric Schaefer and Joe Sanchez. Now about 1.5 seconds to Lance Hill, where he needs to get in order to get the race lead and be in control for the first time all night long. There was a very dramatic storyline between these two last week at Gateway. Lawson Peel, one of the fastest cars all night long, and over the long run, once you get between 35 and 40 laps on the tires, that 12 was absolutely unbeatable. Had a monumental lead before the yellow came out pretty late in the race in that 2nd half, but then found a way poorly on strategy. Sanchez had his way up at the front, and Lawson Peel did all that he could to catch up on tires and his advantage by a couple of laps, and it didn't work. And that would have been race win number 6 on the calendar for that 12 machine, and it would have been his 14th of his 4-wide Racing Cup career as Forrester finally breaks through this 4-car brigade and settles himself inside the top 5. But again, all trying to catch up to this one car of Lance Hill, who finished on the podium last time we were here. And finished 2nd by 32 100ths of a second to an ultimately the winner, Eric Schaefer. And Eric Schaefer has since settled in 4th, has not been able to find any sort of progress, and I believe he's somewhat losing time to Colin Forrester. We'll see if that battle ends up manifesting in its own way. But you look at the top 3 off of Indy last season, you look at Lance Hill, fell quite short in P2, Kevin D'Elia, who fell way back near the end despite having a shot at the win. Adam Alshire in his machine, he used to drive the number 14. Alshire now currently in 8th, so not necessarily the worst race at all for the JetBlue Airways machine and this new team, Trackhouse Racing. Lawson Peel in all this, P4, as Alshire does a crazy save in turn 3 and has to wheel this car through the entire corner and still struggling out of turn 4. Those rear tires are not happy with Adam Alashire. Has to wheel it. And now Brandon Banks with an opportunity to make a pass in turn 1. That was a wheelman effort by the 91 at this stage of the run. Remember, they are now 17 laps on their respective set of Goodyear Eagles. So it's starting to fall off significantly, and when you're in dirty air, and with this track that really wears off the right front and can wear out the rear tires when you're carrying so much speed and so much throttle, it is becoming so much more difficult to drive. And so for Alashire, we'll keep tabs with him. Remember, he finished third in last season's race, rather, here from Indianapolis. Not tonight, although we'll see what might happen in the next 26 laps or so. But then Lawson Peel, all of this finished in 4th. Not necessarily an outstanding 2-lap to go run to the finish. Just kind of kept himself there. Survived all the madness. But Lawson Peel has a little more motivation this time around. His loss at Gateway, certainly close, but no cigar. Now as he tries to catch Lance Hill, a gap decreased to 9/10 of a second. Faster Lawson Peel was by about a 10th. And so there's a lot riding on this SpaceX Chevrolet. So he'll try to do his best to get what will be his 6th win of Season 5 in dominating fashion. Everybody else all single file at this stage of the race. One of the closest battles here between Jesse Priest and Tony Kivet on board with the 00. And Jesse Priest has been hanging around the midfield all night long. Lowest he's been is 17th. He started pretty high up in the field in P6, but now in 13th has just kind of been sitting here. And the same goes for Tony Kivet. Solid to start, but has just kind of been hanging around at this stage. And in some cases, that might be what you need. Throughout these last couple of races, you want pure consistency, and if you're the 76 of Tony Kivet, you're 63 points out of that 15th and last playoff eligible spot. So you're looking at possible consistent finishes over Kyle Benson, who's not here tonight, unfortunately. Eric Schaefer might be a little tougher just because Schaefer is so far up the field running order. But then you look at Kevin D'Elia, who's a couple of spots in front of him. In fact, just one in P11, so there's a lot to gain for Kivet, and there might just be a lot of momentum he can gain at this stage of the race if he wants to build things up for what's going to be Iowa, Darlington, and Daytona in the coming weeks. Here's a look on board with Lance Hill, and there's the gap. Back to second, evaporated 0.2 of a second as Peel gets significantly loose in the middle of turn 1. Peel has been eyeing him in the last couple of laps, and that last time by, even more of a difference in lap time to the advantage of the 12. 52.486 for the 12 of Peel, 52.886 for the 1 of Lance Hill. So the tires have fallen off in that one machine. Here comes Peel with a huge run in turn 3. That might be good enough for the lead. It is, and for the first time after starting 20th, Lawson Peel in control of the race as Lance Hill ducks down to the pit lane. First call for green flag pit stops by a lead lap machine, and it's the one all by himself coming in. With the 75% of fuel, you probably would expect 20 to 25 laps on a stint of fuel. There's Michael Newbraw also coming in. And so this is the kickoff at lap 58 for the last set of stops to make it all the way to the end. Of course, if they pit now, they should have at least enough fuel and enough tire to make it all the way to the checkered flag. But now it's all about when you come in. And this race, much like it has in history, in this series, is starting to fall down to strategy. On board with Colin Forrester, who has picked up the pace on Eric Schaefer. Schaefer brings it into the pit lane. The same will go for Joe Sanchez. And I believe Lawson Peel is also coming in. Never mind, he's going to stay out an extra lap. I believe I saw his car for a brief second, but just coming around at turn 1. But it is Joe Sanchez and Eric Schaefer coming in for their respective stops. They're going to bring in a couple of more with them. Bring in Jesse Priest. Adam Alashire in the 91. Looks like Christopher Bishop, CJ Munier among those that are also making their stops. And so a good chunk of the field coming in this time by. And it's all about what Lawson Peel can do, whether he's going to stay out front as much as he can. And there's Lance Hill, by the way, that black and orange Chevrolet. That will not be for track position. Hill is a lap down, but he will unlap himself. This is a very, very good situation you're in, placement-wise. If you're this one car, because you've got fresher tires, you can build a gap on Lawson Peel as he comes down pit road, and you might just make him play catch-up in the last 20 or so laps. More drivers coming in. Colin Forrester, AJ Green, Brandon Banks. And caution flag is out, as all three of these drivers are on pit road. I believe it's Tyler Warner that brings out the yellow. And there's his car slow on the pit access road. And the caution comes out at the worst time for Colin Forrester. And it's the second time it happens. I remember a couple of weeks ago, Forrester was a strong driver. Caution came out as he was in pit road. And now three of those guys, him, AJ Green, and the 54 of Brandon Banks, may have to be a lap down when we get this next restart. We'll take an eye and see exactly what happened. And indeed it was Tyler Warner, and I believe this is the same trouble that Forster had earlier, that bump at the exit of the pit lane. Yes. It's a pretty nasty bump. You don't expect it when you're moving through the gears. That's the top end of first to the low end of second. We'll see it again on board cockpit view from this 33 machine. And this is behind that group of Joe Sanchez and company to come in. He hits that bump on the gas. He spins the race car, and while he doesn't necessarily get onto the racing surface, he makes his way back to the pit access road without threatening anybody on track. That is more than enough for iRacing to constitute that as a yellow. And so once again, we are under caution. And behind the iRacing official pace car, there are a couple of drivers who did not come in for their stops, and that's going to be first through fifth. So only 5 machines had stayed out up until this point. Everybody 6th on back had made a stop, including that number 99 of Colin Forster, that 48 of AJ Green, 55 of Joe Sanchez. And you count them, there's the 12 coming in for service. He'll have the freshest tires out of anybody, but of course we have mentioned multiple times on the show that tires advantage has not necessarily been that great in terms of practice. 28, 76, 55, not 55 rather, 03. The 9 to Brandon Gillis. Looks like Forrester and AJ Green are coming in for a second time. Might just be to top off on fuel. But we have some drama. We'll try and settle out the running order, but as it stands, it appears that Joe Sanchez will assume P1 with Eric Schaefer in second, Adam Alashire in third. And that currently sits us with 19 cars on the lead lap. Kevin DeLee, the first one, a lap down or more as he sits behind Alashire, so he's going to get the wave around when we get the 1 to green signal. This has spiced up the competition. That caution in the middle of this long green flag run, and in the middle of green flag stops, there's Lawson Peel coming out. 14.5 second stop gets him out in front of everyone else. Jaden Porter, Colin Forrester, AJ Green. And that is Brandon Gillis in the 9, not too far behind. He also came in for service. He was one of those in that group with Lawson Peel. Some beautiful colors out of the Square Enix Ford Mustang. It's a light beige and somewhat of a brown shade. And Gillis currently rides in 8th as of the scoring. We'll see how that updates as soon as we get that 1 to green signal. But pit stops are complete. Joe Sanchez now in control for the second time this evening. A lot more to cover here from the Brickyard. Ready for the green in a couple of laps. Don't go anywhere. We've got more right here on MaxSpeedTV.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Ready for the restart inside 17 laps to go. Welcome back to our coverage of race number 16 in Season 5 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. If you were tuned in with us before the break, you would know that a caution came out in the middle of green flag stops, and that puts us in a restart with about 16 laps remaining, and with Joe Sanchez at the front with Eric Schaefer alongside him in row number 1. Lawson Peel and everybody else fifth on back came down for service. They had stayed out at the time of yellow. Colin Forrester, AJ Green, and another driver were in pit road at the time of yellow. Fortunately, Forrester does not lose a lap. He's going to restart in 7th, this time by. Pace car will make its way down. Could this be the final time we see it on track? Joe Sanchez, Eric Schaefer, the two Chevrolet Camaros will bring us to the yard of bricks and back to the green flag with 17 laps remaining. And it's a solid jump by Sanchez and a close call by Eric Schaefer. Almost about got tapped by Adam Alshire. This is the most aggressive. We've seen that car all night long. They make contact in turn 2, side by side for second. It is a 6-car battle. Back to turn 3. Lawson Peel and Adam Alshire trying to hold out hope on the bottom. And it's Schaefer, Banks, Porter, and Forrester all in a 4-car train up top. Now Forrester switches to the bottom. They're all trying to get by the 28. And this is all allowing Sanchez to say bye-bye to the field. 0.6 of a second and counting as that long train of cars tries to get by the 91. And a huge crossover by Peel. And we talk about the aggressiveness on the restarts. And they are definitely justified with the way we've seen how difficult it is to pass over the run. And if this race stays green, this might be the only opportunity these guys have at making passes on the track. And they all end up single file, side by side for a moment between teammates Lance Hill and Timothy Cook. That gets settled. Hill, remember, was in the race lead for a while tonight. He has dropped back to 11th. And torn up on track position as they go side by side behind Peel and Jaden Porter. That's Forrester looking to the inside for 5th. And a tap of the outside wall by Porter. Here comes Peel. They make contact again to the yard of bricks. And Lawson Peel might just have this completed. For turn 1, he does. And with about 0.7 of a second he needs to gain on Eric Schaefer in front of him, as they all end up single file. And we'll cross the line next time by with 14 laps to go from Indianapolis, as Eric Schaefer put in a similar situation he was last time we were here. Remember, it has been a struggle all night long. Caution flag will wave, and we'll bring this field back to rest. It's Tyler Warner sideways in the grass on the back straight. Second time Tyler Warner is in trouble tonight. He brought out the most recent caution other than this one after getting sideways and spinning around off the bump at the exit of pit lane on his green flag stop. And we'll see what happened this time as he comes out of turn 2. This was behind Timothy Cook, Jesse Prees. There's the 42 of Christopher Bishop in the back end of this. Just gets a bit of the rumble strip, gets loose, and almost hits the outside wall, gets sideways, and oh my goodness, look at how close he got to the 42 of Bishop. Not once, but twice, and it must have been an absolute scare if you're that green Chevrolet Camaro of Bishop, who almost got collected and almost could have been a part of a two-car incident, but fortunately, Tyler Warner keeps it out of harm's way from other drivers. And I believe, actually, there might have been some slight contact that sent him sideways. Look at Newbraw and CJ Munier going for a BMX jump in the grass. But it's that slight spin from Warner that gets him all out of shape. Here's a look on board with the 33. And we've talked about over tonight's race just how loose these drivers have gotten in the middle of the corner when you're trying to arc it and putting so much throttle on. Fresh tires, most notably, describes a bit of that rumble strip on the left side tires. And right there, it does get a piece of the contact by the 42, locks up the brakes. But I believe will escape without any significant damage to the race car, although he will be trapped in 19th. And there might just be a pit call by him. We'll see what he does. There are a couple of drivers that are coming in this time by, most notably Tyler Murray and Brandon Gillis. So no Tyler Warner on the pit lane. And there he is. He will stay out. And so our second caution, at least within the last 5 laps or so, will bring us under yellow again with 13 laps to go here from Indy. Remember, our last caution, last time we were here, came around 5 laps to go. We ended up in an overtime restart with 2 laps remaining to get us to our distance. And we were under caution with single-digit laps remaining in this race back in Season 4. So, safe to say we might end up in that same trend. But the pressure is only growing larger if you're this 55 up at the front, the catbird seat, as most people would call it. And here in Indianapolis, it's even worse compared to a lot of the other tracks that we'll find here on this 4-wide Racing Cup Series schedule. You won't see the same phenomenon at Iowa because, while yes, you have the opportunity at making a mistake and losing the lead, having a poor restart, letting drivers get around you, and give you some thought about fighting hard for that last spot to get to the checkered flag. Here at Indianapolis, the draft is so large that if you're Eric Schaefer, Lawson Peel, and all these guys behind this 55, you can bunch up in a group single file, get a huge run on this 55, and Sanchez has no other option but to look in that rearview mirror and send a good block. And sending a decent block is a tough challenge anywhere you go. Doesn't matter whether it's Indianapolis, doesn't matter whether it's Bristol, doesn't matter whether it's the super speedways, Daytona and Talladega. We're going to see those blocks dealt at Daytona in a couple of weeks when we get down to that regular season championship race. And so there's a lot to consider in the mental of Joe Sanchez, who's going to look to be the first driver in Season 5 to go 2 in a row. The last time we saw a driver go 2 in a row in this series was Lawson Peel back in Season 4. So there is a lot to consider. And if you're Eric Schaefer, you've got that blueprint in mind, and everyone else has the opportunity to make a move. Here's a look at the point standings as we get the 1 to green signal with around 11 laps to go. This is how things look in terms of the playoff picture. Now for Sanchez, a win tonight would only tie him with Colin Forrester for second most wins on the calendar year. For Lawson Peel, this would, of course, keep him at the top. He'll have 6 race wins in Season 5. For Eric Schaefer, though, this is big time. 16 points beneath the next driver in line, Kevin D'Elia, who currently holds that last and dear spot into these 4-wide Racing Cup Series playoffs as it stands. So if the 3 gets to victory lane this evening, that'll eliminate all of the worries that he will have going to Iowa, going to Dover, Darlington, and Daytona to close off this regular season. For all those other drivers in the mix, possible playoff spots on the line for 2 of those, or rather 3 of those, on the bottom end through rows 1 through 3. All of them are locked in, and this one only adds more momentum. Sanchez looking for his 3rd calendar win. Peel looking for his 6th. Forrester looking for his 4th. While Schaefer, Porter, Alashire all looking for win number 1 to get them secured into that run for the championship. Sanchez in 1st. Eric Schaefer 2nd in row number 1. Jaden Porter, Lawson Peel, those doubled up in the 2nd row. 3rd row consists of Colin Forrester and Adam Alashire, the 2 cars bearing the Trackhouse font. And then all the way back to the top 10, Tony Kibbett, Brandon Banks, AJ Green, and the 1 of Lance Hill. Restart with 11 laps to go. Joe Sanchez at the helm of the ship as the pace car makes its way down the 55, gets the gas pedal, we're back under green. And it's a decent jump from first through third. Colin Forrester trying to make a statement here for fourth underneath Jaden Porter at the exit of turn 2. They make contact now. Here comes Schaefer with a big run on the back straightaway, and he's got the lead for turn 3. Lawson Peel diving on the bottom of that Valvoline Chevrolet, looking for second as Colin Forrester tries to build a run with Jaden Porter and Adam Alashire. 10 laps to go when they cross the stripe. For Eric Schaefer, he has not seen this clear of a track in front of him all night long after being buried in the mid-pack. And now with a chance to take his first win of the season, they go side by side again, this time for P4. And Jaden Porter again diving the nose underneath Colin Forrester, and that 99 is only losing more time to catch back up to the field and get back to the point, as he'll lose that fight against the Ally Chevrolet and might try and strike back. No, he will not. He'll stay single file, and this is all Lawson Peel's opportunity to help with the 55 and potentially get back to the lead. And again, we talked about how tough it is to make passes here in Indianapolis. And the last time we saw Peel make a pass on the racetrack under a longer run was on fresh tires to the race leader. And it took a while for that to be the case, and it was Lance Hill that he got around. And now he has to make it up in around 9 laps or so, this time by from Indianapolis. And it is 0.2 of a second between these two drivers. Remember how short Lawson Peel was to the race win last week at Gateway? And it was his teammate Joe Sanchez in the race lead at the end of it. And now in a similar place at a similar portion of tonight's event, and trying to do his hardest to catch up to this 3 of Eric Schaefer on board with the 3 in turns 3 and 4. And so far, no moves out of the 12 of Peel, but a move behind them. Colin Forrester looking to the bottom of Joe Sanchez. This is for third, Jaden Porter in the background. And they're side by side for P6 as well. Adam Alashire and Brandon Banks in the 91 and the 54. Also still door to door. At the exit of turn 1 of the short chute, Banks catches a bit of the outside wall. And they might add a third car in this mix as well. One of Lance Hill has been fast all evening up to this point, but just so far back in track position that you wonder whether it's even worth it at the end of this race. Colin Forrester last time by 52 flat compared to your leaders at a 52-1 apiece. And Forrester is adamant to getting back to the front. We'll cross the line with 7 laps to go. Schaefer pushes wide in turn 4, and could this be the turning point in tonight's event? So far, nothing. Now something. Forrester looks to the bottom, but gets the door shut and backs out to turn 1. And you have to imagine that working together might just be better than working separately, but Forrester wants none of it. He does not want to push that 12 to the back bumper of the 3. They're side by side, and Peel's going to hold on to the spot, but Forrester trying all that he can to get by. Remember, earlier in this race, Forrester was looking to be a team player. He was working with Sanchez up at the front, did not want to go for position when it was not right to do so, but now he has completely abandoned that ideology and continues to put that pressure to the 12. Meanwhile, it is almost 0.7 of a second between Eric Schaefer and the rest of the field, coming to 6 laps to go. And memories of last season where Schaefer had a look at the front, then had a driver on his outside. getting to the checkered flag. And then on his inside and then all over the place. Schaefer, though, with absolutely no pressure behind him. 4/10 of a second, though. It has closed quite a bit. And you wonder if you're Colin Forster, whether the play here is just to stay in the draft and hope that you guys can catch up to this 3 in enough time before this race is over, or if you're going to try and attack against that 12 once more if you get a little bit closer. For now, he has not been able to get back to the back bumper. And it has been all in a failed attempt to get to second as we're across the line for 5 laps to go from the Brickyard. And almost a crash in turn 1 behind them. That's Adam Alshire getting sideways. Tony Kimmett, Jesse Prees, and I believe almost a bit of AJ Green. That could have been a pivotal caution to potentially send this into overtime. It does not. And Alshire has dropped the anchor back to 9th. And here comes Jesse Prees for that spot. Meanwhile, back up front, looking for 4 laps to go. As Lance Hill attacks the outside wall, but the focus stands on your top 3. They're door-to-door in the back half of the top 10, and that is huge separation between themselves and everyone else. And it's a large gap from Alshire back to Kimmett. And even more so throughout this top 5. And the gap has stagnated at 2/10 of a second. That last time by, Schaefer was almost 2/10 slower. Lawson Peel and Colin Forster picked up a dramatic amount of time. And this time through in turn 3, they've got a good look at it, but they'll back out. They'll send Schaefer wide, and this might be the door open for Peel. It's the door open for Forster, looking for second. We talked about Sanchez on the restart being in the catbird seat. Now it has shifted to the driver of the 3 car. The teammates doing battle as here comes Peel with a big run. Is he going to look to the inside? No, he does not. And lap by lap, they are bringing in Joe Sanchez and Jaden Porter, who are setting faster laps. Both of them at a 52.2. And your leaders all within 52 threes, 52 fours as they cross the stripe. So this race might be between 5 or 6 cars. At the end of this one, we'll cross the line next time by for 2 laps to go. Peel with a big run sends it to the back bumper of Schaefer into turn 3. And here comes Forster looking for second in turn 4. Forster with a dive down low. And there might be frustrations out of this 12 machine. He does not want to see this 99 go at him for position, especially when they are so close. And now the gap grows. 3/10 of a second back to turn 1 with 2 laps to go. That was Lance Hill in the background way up the racetrack and send it in on Jaden Porter. And drops back. It is a large gap, about a second and 3/10 between Hill and Brandon Banks, who currently sits in 7th. Now here's Peel looking to the bottom again for second. Collins Forster tried to shut the door, but again they're door-to-door to turn 3. Lance Hill on the bottom of Jaden Porter. But as they cross the line, this race will be official. Forster and Sanchez try to jump Lawson Peel as the gap significantly balloons to 7/10 of a second. And it is Eric Schaefer looking for the white flag from Indianapolis. Peel and Forster, some of the fastest cars at Gateway last week. Wind stripped away from both of them. And this time by with a shot at the back bumper of the 3. In the winning lap, it might just be stripped away from them once more. Lawson Peel is going to try one more time to attack for second, but the gap has stayed at 5/10. They're going to block all the way down to the white line in the back straightaway. Peel unsuccessful. Eric Schaefer out ahead, and the 3 car who had been in the mid-pack all night long and sitting one spot below the playoff contention now has the golden ticket. Out of turn 4, Eric Schaefer stays undefeated at Indianapolis and wins at the Brickyard. It is Schaefer's first win of the season, his first since Darlington in 2022. His second win at the Brickyard in the last 2 seasons, as he becomes the 9th different winner in this edition of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. There's everyone giving their congratulations. And they might make some contact at the exit of turn 4. Drinkin' Bros Racing gets to the win for what is the 3rd week in a row. That dominance only continues, but this time with a different face grabbing the checkered flag as the 3 Reaper Speed Lab Chevrolet Camaro brings it to the Art of Bricks. Eric Schaefer, victorious here from Indianapolis, and now has no worries going for the playoffs. All by himself on the front straightaway. We'll turn it back around and we'll burn it down. Eric Schaefer celebrates from Indianapolis. And what a wave of emotion it might be behind the wheel. Eric Schaefer in this position last season, but had way more pressure, way higher stakes with Kevin D'Elia and Lance Hill not too far behind, and giving it every last bit of them to get to the checkered flag first. But this time, no worries in that rearview mirror for Eric Schaefer. No 2 lap to go restart, no problems. And as they fight for second over the last couple of laps, Schaefer pulls away and now deservedly burns it down. The 8th driver in the Season 5 4-Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs. So Eric Schaefer continues his celebrations on the Yard of Bricks. Well, not on the Yard of Bricks. Some people call it disrespect, but close to it here at Indianapolis as the 3 gets to victory lane. And again, makes that the 3rd straight win by a Drinkin' Bros Racing Chevrolet. Eric Schaefer the winner by about half a second over his teammate Lawson Peel, who goes second for the 2nd straight week after falling just short at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Colin Forrester, who was fast all night long and had the lead for a good chunk of this race, is going to have to settle for 3rd in that duel with the 12. The 55 of Joe Sanchez kind of hung around 4th, and that's where he finishes this evening from Indeed Jaden Porter, the sophomore driver for Bacalhau Bueno Racing, wraps up the rest of the top 5, almost about a second behind. It just shows you how close the entire field was up at the front to the end. Lance Hill comes home in 6th. A lot of laps led for Lance Hill. This is certainly a fantastic points day heading into Iowa. Brandon Banks comes home in 7th. AJ Green in 8th. Adam Alashire in 9th. And rounding out your top 10, the number 76 of Tony Kibbett. Kevin D'Elia in the 53 ends up as the 11th car once we cross the stripe. Brian Dixon in the 03 is the driver that comes home in 12th. 13th will go to Jesse Prees in the number 00. It'll be the 16 of Tyler Murray, who comes home in 14th. Top 15 will be occupied by the CJ Munier car in the 89. Michael Newbraw is 16th. Timothy Cook will be 17th. Tyler Werner in the 33, who went around near the end of this race, is 18th. Brandon Gillis, who, by the way, had a military tricolor desert pattern for the 19th anniversary of the ambush known as Black Sunday. That car comes home in 19th, and rounding out the top 20 is the 42 of Christopher Bishop, the first car 1 lap down or more in this race, 2 laps behind the leaders. Chuck Keller is 33 laps down, 21st. 22nd goes to Curtis Kelly, who, remember, we saw in that accident in turn 3 with Craig Lautenslager. Both him and the 13 end up as the last 2 drivers in tonight's field. So it's our time to talk with the man who comes home at the podium, at the top, for the 2nd straight time here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it is the number 3 of Eric Schaefer, who we will bring in to the broadcast booth and in victory lane for the first time in Season 5. And I have to imagine, Eric, there must have been the memories from last season when you went to victory lane here. In those waning laps, you had a bunch of cars hot on your heels trying to get by you, But ultimately, you end up on top. You get your first win. You're now locked into the playoffs. Just give us your thoughts on tonight's win.
Yeah, man, I'm kind of happy about that. I didn't even think I'd be able to get by Joe there, but he messed up the exit of 2, and I backed the corner up just a hair and was able to get a run on him down the straightaway. And once you get clean air, it's just so easy to have everybody behind you and kind of maintain the pace and just keep them behind you. But yeah, you talked about last year, man. Being the defended winner again this year. Last year it was like Joe and Lawson wrecked each other, so it kind of like fell in my lap for me to win the race. But this year it was like a hard fought battle.
Certainly was a hard-fought battle, and it certainly tells in the tape throughout this entire event where you started tonight in 10th, your lowest was 14th, you were around the mid-pack all night long. What really changed in terms of strategy or just outright pace as you got a little more comfortable with this car throughout the event?
Just you know me, Kenneth. I'm a V car guy, man, and it's just this car right here. The better I am practicing it and running with it, the more comfortable I get with it. But I didn't really get a whole lot of practice tonight because I had some stuff going on before I got in the session. But I just did my P's and Q's and ran laps behind Banks and Lawson and them for a little while there, and just watched what they were doing and just started just kind of started doing what they were doing, man, playing with the brake bias a little bit and just turning in my arcing in my entry a little bit better. And yeah, I guess it kind of paid off, I guess.
Third straight win for Drinking Bros Racing over the past 3 races, but for you, most importantly, it's your first, and given your context going into this race, 16 points behind the last spot for the playoffs and 15th in the standings, how much does this win mean for you now that you're locked in, and what does that say for your mindset and your momentum going into Iowa next week and the rest of the regular season?
Oh man, it's a heck of a momentum burst. But yeah, I really didn't think I'd get a win, but I was just happy I did, man. And it's definitely a huge momentum boost going to Iowa. I like Iowa. Um, but yeah, the Drinking Bros guys, man, it's what you said, 3 in a row for us, man. That's what we do. Keep on winning.
It's a huge accomplishment. You're now the new name added to the list of winners in Season 5. Eric, on behalf of all of us at MaxSpeedTV, congratulations on the big win. Congratulations for defending the win here at Indianapolis, and looking forward to seeing you at Iowa and the rest of the regular season. But until then, welcome to the playoffs. Congratulations again.
Thanks, Kenneth. Hey, man, I just want to give you a huge shout out. Appreciate everything you do for us, and appreciate Tyler and all the admins and everything they do. And then a huge shout out to all my Drinking Bros guys and Reefer Speed Labs, man. Appreciate everything everybody does for us.
So that is Eric Schaefer, the driver of the 3, your race winner here from Indianapolis, and those 11 laps that he was out in front, the most important. He now joins 8 other drivers, or I believe 7 other drivers, now 8 other drivers into the playoffs for Season 5. It is another second place finish, however, for the man that sits behind this number 3, Lawson Peel, in the number 12. We're caught up with him now, and Lawson, we know you were in an absolute dogfight between yourself and Colin Forster to the end. What was your mindset, and how were you going to try to get around that 3 in those waning laps?
Yeah, the clean air is just huge, and whoever's got it out there is just in such a good position. If they can keep it right on the bottom and just keep that lane sealed off there, it's extremely hard to do anything. So Colin was probably the best car there. He was coming back hard, charging, making a comeback after that pit road exit mishap. So he probably had the best car. They certainly couldn't hold him off. I tried, but yeah, Schaefer just got out there in the clean air and was able to just kind of control it. And yeah, like I said, you just couldn't do anything. It was all night. You just get within a certain distance of somebody, and really it just struggled to get any closer. Tyler did change the gear ratio on this setup a little bit, which helped a little bit. With the recent update and the rev limiter coming down to like 9,000, the setup was outdated here. They didn't change it, so you were topping out like midway down the straightaway in 5th gear, like 188. So he changed it for this race, which worked out great. I think the setup was really good, and same for last week at Richmond, the MPI race Sunoco race you broadcasted there Sunday night. That setup was also probably the best it's been in a while as far as the fixed setups we've had, just stable, been able to hold it right on the bottom. This one was certainly tight, but we weren't having that, rear tire just failure after like 10 laps that we've been having for months in these cars. So really enjoyed it tonight. That was fun.
Of course, you mentioned the difficulty to pass, and you can even turn that back to last week's race at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway. Did you feel that if you were going to make a move on Schaefer, it had to have been within at least the first 3 laps after the restart, or did you feel that even near the end you might have had an opportunity to get him?
Yeah, certainly within those first couple of laps, like you said, or unless he makes a mistake, or if you have help in the form of like a big push to push you by, that's really the only way to do it. And you're exactly right. With last weekend at Gateway, I was trying to chase down Joe there that last run, and he was just running that perfect line right on the seam, not giving me any air, and you lose your front tires and then you can't do anything. So yeah, certainly the same thing here this week.
Well, nonetheless, still a good second place finish, so a lot of good points. We know you're already locked into the playoffs, so obviously no worries on that front, but we're chipping things down. Final 3 races left: Iowa, Darlington, Daytona. Any thoughts that you have specifically of what you and your team is going to start to do in preparation for the championship run?
Well, I'm not good at Iowa or Darlington. Some of my teammates really like Darlington, so I know they'll be excited for that one. But yeah, just excited to get another DBR driver victory tonight. That's I think 5 on the team with a win this season. So looking good for the playoffs as far as having a good amount of our team in there. So nice job to Schaefer. 2 years in a row here. Difficult track, and I really love Indy. This is an awesome racetrack. Love racing on the oval here. Much prefer that to the road course. So yeah, congratulations to him, 2 years in a row there.
We join a lot of people in that opinion list of the Indy Oval better than the road course. And also DBR continuing their winning ways. 3 wins in a row over the last 3. So certainly huge accomplishment as you guys try to chokehold the field heading into the playoffs for this season. Lawson, before we let you go, anybody in specific you want to thank for tonight's performance?
All my teammates, Tyler Murray, Kyle Benson, Austin Reedy, for putting on the league. Yeah, congrats to Shafe on the win. Thanks to Paul's setup shop. Thanks to you for doing the broadcast. Yeah, thanks to Colin for racing me clean there. I know he wanted to win. He probably had the best car there, but good race to him. So appreciate it, Kenneth.
We certainly appreciate the time, Lawson. On behalf of our broadcast team, congratulations on P2. Looking forward to seeing you at Iowa next week.
Thank you.
So that is the 12 of Lawson Peel, the SpaceX Chevrolet, coming home in second place. Our last driver out of the top 3, the 99 of Colin Forrester, who led 12 laps tonight and finishes on the last spot of the podium. And Colin, we got to talk about those last couple of laps, you versus Lawson Peel. What's that perspective behind the wheel?
Definitely frustrating. It's just so hard to pass here, and then he is pinching, and then I don't want to run him into the wall, but I mean, I don't know. There's nothing I could really do because Jeff just brought him back, and it was just super frustrating because I feel like I was definitely faster, but I just couldn't get around him, and I just need to get around him quicker. And once I did, it was too late.
Well, nonetheless, even without the race win, a third place finish certainly caps off what was a huge up and down race for you. You were up in the race lead, fighting for the top positions, and as Lawson said, you were one of the fastest, if not the fastest car on the racetrack in that last run, but you had that spin out of pit road under caution, and you worked your way up all the way through the mid-pack and especially through the podium. How were you able to keep yourself in it at that stage, even with that mishap?
Yeah, I don't know why there's a bump on pit road there. Definitely forgot about it and then just hit it out of nowhere and then got the end of line. So I just knew I had to slowly, methodically work my way back up, and it wasn't going to be easy. I just had to pick them off one by one and make the smart moves, and was able to work my way up to like 5th there. Then the caution came out back under pit road, or while I was on pit road again. So we just got our pit stop done. Again, and just was able to work my way up slowly, and then just not enough at the end.
Nonetheless, third place finish heading into the final 3 races of the regular season, and much like now the 2 drivers in front of you at the end of this race, all locked in to Season 5 playoff contention. So now what's your mindset, and how are you going to try to adjust yourself for playoff time in a couple of weeks?
I'm just going to keep trying to do the same thing and win. That's the best thing to do is win. So just keep running up front like I do, and just if the wins will come eventually. So we'll try and get that championship at the end, and if we do, we do. If we don't, we don't. Give it our effort, though.
Nonetheless, third place here from the Brickyard. Colin, before we let you go, anybody you want to thank in particular for the run?
Shout out to my dad for watching. Shout out to you guys for doing the broadcast, and as well as everyone at Stonks Motorsports. We had a pretty decent day. Also, shout out to Tyler for having me. This league's fun every week, and just looking forward to next week.
We certainly appreciate the time, Colin. On behalf of our broadcast team, congratulations on the podium, and we'll see you in the playoffs in a couple of weeks. But until then, congratulations again. We'll see you at Iowa.
All right, appreciate it.
So that's Colin Forrester in the number 99, who comes home in tonight's race in P3. So much to discuss. Of course, that storyline that we brought up at the top of the show, that playoff order. We'll show it for you one more time before we get out of here on MaxSpeedTV. This was what the playoff standings looked like before we dropped the green. Of course, this is not updated to the checkered flag here this evening, but look at where Eric Schaefer is. 16th, 16 points beneath Kevin D'Elia, who held that last playoff spot in the standings. Of course, things have changed dramatically. Remember last week at Gateway, we were talking about the tale of Christopher Bishop and Tyler Murray fighting for that last spot in the playoffs. Ultimately, they bump up a couple of spots, and it's Eric Schaefer on the back end of this, right there at the cusp. But finally grabs the win here from Indianapolis Motor Speedway and doesn't have to worry about points racing for the rest of the calendar year. Let's look at the schedule before we wrap things up. These are the last couple of races that we have before we go playoff event racing. It starts with Iowa in Newton in 1 week time on April 12th. We'll go for about 175 laps. Then Dover, Darlington, and Daytona to close out this season. A large variety of tracks, whether it be short venues, larger venues, super speedways, intermediate tracks, you name it, abrasive surfaces, smooth surfaces. There are a lot of factors to go into these last couple of races, and what that is going to do for certain, test every single driver on this field. And we're going to keep you updated on those point standings and see where everybody falls at the end of the regular season. So that'll do it for our broadcast of the 4Wide Racing Cup Series from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So for Tyler Murray and everyone from the admin team and race council, and from all of us at MaxSpeedTV, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying so long and good night from the Brickyard. Congratulations to Eric Schaefer on win number 1 in this season and win number 5 in his 4Wide Cup career. We head to Cornland, Iowa next week.